All right, we are live here again. Another episode of Table 34. This week we continue in the discussion on COVID-19, and the last week we kind of talk about like restaurants and how it affecting like the food scene. And this week we kind of want to get into more on how it affecting people on I guess, on a personal level and how people dealing with that. Of course, as usual, with me on the panel is Quincy and Ronaldo.
Evening, folks.
And joining us on the panel today, we have Kelly. And Kelly, would you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Good night, everyone, and thank you so much for having me. I am Kelly McFarlane. I'm a clinical and organizational psychologist. So I work with organizations to make their workplaces healthier, to bridge the gap between the employee and the employer, consultancy, coaching, training, and the like. And clinically, I work with a range of mental health problems from, a little bit of stress, some interpersonal problems, relationship counseling, etc. In my private practice. And I also have a collection of candles. So I'm also a scented candle entrepreneur, which is
Okay.
passion project as well. So in a nutshell, that's Kelly McFarlane.
The candles related to the like stress relief.
Be stressed.
Absolutely. Stress, focus. Yes.
Oh, okay,
Mood
okay.
boosting. Yeah.
Nice.
Line extension, yes?
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And
Yeah.
we have with us as well Rachel.
Hi, so I am Rachel Ann Lala as well, just like Kelly. I am a clinical psychologist and I also have my private practice, Mindful Insights TT, where I also deal with interpersonal relationships, relationship counseling. I am a huge proponent for self care, mindfulness, and budding positive psychologist.
Nice, nice. Just a shout out in the chat right now. Good evening, Crystal, Marina, Ariane, Shawnell. Thanks for joining, and thank you in advance to anyone else who is joining in on the chat tonight. Always a pleasure to have you all with us. So we have a range of topics to dive into, and with no sticking because we're on limited time. I want to get into the first question and throw it to Rachel first. And the question is, does the reality of dealing with the global pandemic create a rise in common mental disorders? Have you seen, is there, a correlation?
I would say that there's definitely a correlation between the pandemic and the symptoms of mental disorders. So, with mental disorders, there's a lot of criteria, to
Mm.
basically diagnose someone with a mental disorder. But definitely, there has been a huge increase in those symptoms. So, some people have, post traumatic stress symptoms. There's a lot of depressive symptoms, anxiety, trauma. Different things that can be considered a mental disorder. However, it's you can't really classify it as yet. So I wouldn't say they've increased the disorders, but definitely the symptoms that can cause them.
Okay. Kelly, are you seeing the same thing happening with your experience?
Certainly. Even before the emergence of the pandemic, you would have had people who had specific vulnerabilities, mental health vulnerabilities that are now being exacerbated, not just by the fear and worry that it causes for people who
Mhm.
have other physical ailments and have loved ones with physical ailments, but also, just because it adds so much new stresses in terms of childcare, limited autonomy. So things that people would have done to help relieve stress, they can no longer do it. Traveling
Right,
to see family members across the globe, they can't do it.
right,
Financial problems, etc. So, and a major thing as well is that forwarding all of the negative news, that constant, scary negative news that
Yeah.
stays there on your psyche, that could create a lot of depressive and anxiety symptoms.
right, right. Um, Ronaldo, how has it been affecting you?
Real hard. I mean, this sounding like something that the learning folks amongst us best poised to respond to. For me,
No. I don't want to intellectual response. I want to
for me, it's not been too bad. I mean, I typically would not be in the last, I guess, couple of years, not somebody who would need to be out all the time. Transition from that. So in terms of missing the ability to move around and go out, and the, I guess, more limited interpersonal interaction isn't too bad for me. But beyond that, my office, I've been basically working straight through. So despite there being, I guess, reduced numbers in the office, there still is that going out and meeting with people on a regular basis. So I have been, I guess, fortunate enough to not be cooped up in my home for an extended period without that interaction.
Nice. Quincy, what about you?
Well, I just rock anyhow it come. So if I could go out, I'll go out. It's fine. If I had to stay inside, I could stay inside, no problem. To the point where I was wondering if something wrong with me. I guess we could reach to that. But I have no problem being like by myself and just logging on, doing things virtually. The stress that I just feel though is the uncertainty. I can't deal with uncertainty. That mashing up. And I think the first lockdown was cool. The second one, and you see the lockdowns actually giving you time to be with yourself now. So somebody like me who was an overthinker and always tossing around things and turning around things and shifting up things, like that scene that scene a little rough right now, to be honest. But that's it.
Right. And Kelly, how would you say the impact of isolation? What is the impact of isolation on lockdown on mental health?
Well, we could look at it firstly in terms of habit. Breaking any habit is often difficult. So we are social beings, and we, especially, I mean, with our culture, we do enjoy socializing for the most part, and we have certain routines and certain habits that we do. We might have Friday after work lime. We might know we could just pick up ourselves and go by our friend if we feel like it. Jump on a plane to Tobago, no cares, no worries about those things. And now we have suddenly an emergence of new habits imposed upon us for our safety, but imposed upon us nonetheless. And so now we have to break old habits and form new habits all at once. So, that could have some impact in terms of, again, those sources of stress relief, that bit of anxiety that causes. And us being social beings, so much so that I hear you, Quincy, that you enjoy your alone time. But so much that we are social beings that there is even research that shows that babies who are very neglected, their brains didn't develop fully, and it's actually smaller, than the average brain because of lack of social interaction. So we are innately social beings. So that sort of isolation in extreme cases, because not everybody, as Ronaldo said, he's still going to work and so on, but in extreme cases, let's say for people who are more physically vulnerable and live alone and so on, it could create a range of issues, cognitive problems with concentration and so on. It could be linked to depression and forming negative biases about life and about what could happen around you, which in turn could increase stress. And you would find that, especially if you're isolated and at home a lot without routine. Quincy, you have routine, but without routine and without structure to your day and without things to do, you have problems sleeping as well. So we're not meant to just be sitting in isolation all day, every day. It's so.
Rachel?
Well, definitely most of the points that Kelly would have mentioned, the financial loss as well, causing another stressor for those who would have been. Some people may be blessed enough to work 50% of the time and still get paid fully, but then there's some they work and they get paid as they come in That is another stressor, rental stresses, different things like this. And then I deal a lot with kids currently, and I think a lot of people think of mental health, you think of adults and mental health, and we haven't even looked at it that all of these kids went to school one day and then came home and never saw their friends again. And
So
we are
true.
home here, like, why is this child so restless and all of that? But then we have to acknowledge that your kid can't go to the grocery with you, which is your sense of, oh my God, I get to go to the grocery. That's my leisure.
Yeah.
The kid can't go because they are more susceptible. So they
Yeah.
can't go to the grocery. They can't go outside and play. They don't see their friends. They literally went to school one day. And then after that, it's like, well, you'll see them in January.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
for
it
real.
definitely does cause a lot of stress on both adults and kids in many different ways, and it's definitely increasing.
Yeah. And just a top one, because great points raised by the two learned panel members. For me, I was supposed to be heading to Tobago tomorrow, and that get cancelled. That was, I guess, my post SEA cool down, because my daughter did SEA this year. And in speaking to the effect it had on the little ones, definitely it did impact, because my daughter, I mean, we remember SEA and doing common entrance, and being able to enjoy that period post common entrance where you were able to, do and explore different things, from Spanish to field trips to all these cool things.
Yep.
The last day of school, being able to, get your shirt signed by your friends and having that moment to keep forever. She had absolutely none of that. None. Couldn't even sign your shirt. Had to social distance. Had to just go write the exam and head home. And it is really a very different experience. Not an experience that I think they should have had. And it really is difficult now, because I mean, all the plans we had changed. The first trip was, I was actually supposed to be on a month-long vacation with her this month, August. That get cancelled long time because of this whole drama. We couldn't go to the States anymore. And then with the things being open up, we say, okay, no problem. We'll just take a long weekend in Tobago, and that come and get cancelled too. So every little avenue that we do get kind of shuts down because of the current situation. Fortunately, I was able to kind of take her to Five Islands early on when they opened the water park before the whole drama. A risk, yes, but I really think it was useful for her to kind of get out there. She loves the water. A friend offered her pool, her community pool, for a pool Saturday. That was another fun event that she did. So, I mean, because leading up to the SEA, I mean, that is in of itself already very stressful, and that being compounded by these other things, as you all said, not being able to see and communicate with your friends. And she's somebody who loves school. Her teachers in the comments right now. Big up, Miss Deplash. Yeah, she loves school. I mean, I saw a huge change from when she was home to when she went back out to school. She's somebody who really thrives in that environment. And then having school shut down after 2 weeks, being thrust back into, go back online and just prep without that environment, it was very difficult. So, I mean, from my perspective, I could be cool with it, but it really does affect other people and people who we may not consider much more.
Yeah.
Kids, boy, kids.
I think that will have a ripple effect, I feel, culturally, if it continues for longer, in terms of how I had to say how we socialize now. People would generally say Trini is very warm and friendly and that kind of thing. And in contrast to other places that they would go to, travel to. I'm wondering if this will change that about us. Like if we'll become less like that.
I think it's very possible, to be honest. Because you get as human beings, we fall into routines. So if you do something long enough, you'll end up embracing it. Also, like if you look at how trends start, right? I looking at something right now in terms of weddings actually. People setting up their weddings. Of course, if you have to adhere to the rules, your weddings will be smaller. People looking into streaming weddings and that kind of thing. Now, weddings traditionally have been kind of expensive, things that people go all out for and that kind of scene. If in the process you offer something that people could like, something that passable but more cost effective, have a chance that even when things lift up, people might select that as an option because like that is now an option on the table. So things like that might start happening, and I think like a wedding, I mean, that's for probably a different conversation, but a wedding does play a certain kind of role in the whole social setup, the whole structure, how certain people have weddings as a certain type of goal. Now you're talking about your wedding pictures, gonna say something real different. Your whole wedding ceremony gonna mean something kind of different too, in terms of where it fit on your social calendar and how it impact on your social calendar. So yeah, things like that. I feel culturally we'll see some shifts. I can't say how they will impact on the whole to make a general statement, but I think definitely.
Someone asked a question, I think it's something that would exploring the inability to have funerals, at least that the way in which we are accustomed. Rachel, how you think that might have an effect on people generally, the psyche?
Well, it's funny. That is actually a question because just yesterday I was having a conversation about that exact thing while someone was streaming a funeral on YouTube. And, grief is something where your support system is very important. And to think that at a funeral you have to select the most important few, pick those few people only. So you may have your support, but the other person you picked may not be able to have their support there. And then even that support is 6 feet away from you.
Right.
Throughout the funeral. And then there are other people that would have been involved in this person's life. Some people actually say they go to funerals just for the closure. So, some people, they need that closure to help them with their grieving process. So the grieving process is halted and a bit, I would say, accelerated in a way where people will be grieving for longer periods of time, and this will also have a ripple effect into different depressive symptoms, anxiety. All of these things are possible. Post-traumatic stress symptoms, with the fact that you did not get to grieve your loved one in the way that you should have.
Right. Yeah. Kelly.
I mean, I think she said it all. I totally agree. I guess the other element to that is that for some people there are religious factors to funerals and the way that we say goodbye to people, the way that we bury people. And so religion is extremely important to a lot of people, and they're not being able to practice those rites, rites, rights, and so, again, it all comes back to this thing of, so much changing, so much that you feel like you should be able to do, or you've been able to do in the past, changing,
Yeah. I'm wondering if it'll change like the whole approach to death on the whole. Because I mean, generally, we have, across the board, I would say, I mean, you would find pockets of people who think differently, but it have like a general consensus when it comes to dealing with death, right? And we look at it in a certain way. Again, I'm just thinking about how these things might have a cultural shift, and what that could look like.
The new normal.
The new normal.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, consider people kind of like children being born into this, right, and coming up knowing this, like this is what they know. Like my cousin have he has a twin girls, and they born into this and coming up in this, And you're considering if this going on for much longer, right? They starting to come into understanding the world in a very, very limited kind of context. that gonna be devoid of touch, that gonna be you're not going out and seeing the amount of smiles and thing on faces that they used to see before. The place gonna look real kind of grim and cold. The whole culture gonna be about staying away from people and 6 feet and staying in your bubbles and not really reaching out. Like, what type of human being that gonna start to develop?
So true. And you know what I would say to that, Quincy, as you were talking even before about it, that is already happening to me, because I've taken these measures so seriously that sometimes I'm looking at TV, I'm looking at a show, and I'm seeing people running and hugging and kissing random people and standing really close. And I'm like, what are they doing? And I find myself there was COVID then. Relax.
Yeah.
People touch each other like that. How can people be so good? And I find myself thinking like how could people do this thing that was normal for me to do 2 months ago, 3 months ago, but it's already really changing me just mentally, and I can't fathom hugging and kissing as much as I used to.
Yeah.
All I think is germs.
I like when I went by Karen to job the thing the other day. I mean, good friend, somebody I know for years, and just out of the routine, like it's so in us, we didn't even make the mistake. Pull up, I had the thing, arms length kinda, and we just back, and we had a conversation, and it's only driving up the road. I was like, wait, this is the first time I ever meet Karen and we in hug, and I didn't see her smile, she didn't see me smile. We just talk. I mean, we know the smiles was probably there, but they didn't see the reinforcement of it now. You kind of feel it, they kind of sense it, and it's so different, real different,
Kelly, what would be some of the signs that people are being negatively affected by the isolation?
Well, we could look at it in terms of, let's say, first you have the emotional signs, you'd have cognitive changes, physical and behavioral. So if you look at it emotionally, the person might be crying a lot, feeling sad, feeling anxious, irritable, blowing things out of proportion, feeling helpless, expressing hopelessness, which is especially important to look at and question when somebody starts expressing hopelessness. Some of the physical signs, let's say especially of anxiety, we've probably all experienced shoulder and neck aches, the physical, because the mind and the body is connected. Then thoughts, cognitively, you might worry a lot, have trouble concentrating. We're still working, we still have to focus on things, so you're having problems focusing, racing thought, negative thoughts. And then you might find that the person might withdraw a lot, be very yell a lot at their kids or at their family members, just act up a lot, maybe throw things. Just so once you start to see that the way they think, their thinking is changing, their behaviors are changing, they have unexplained problems in their bodies, and they seem really emotional, you start to say, well, okay, maybe they're being really affected.
Okay. If I'm a nihilist, right? Like pre-COVID, does that mean that I have a mental disorder?
Well, I mean, I'll put it very technically. That isn't in the DSM. It's not a disorder.
Right.
But so as Rachel Ann was saying earlier on, there are a number of things that we have to see to diagnose a disorder. So it has to be something that affects you. It affects your functioning, not just your personal functioning, but your functioning at work, your functioning at school, your functioning interpersonally with your family, etc. And then we can say, well, okay, this means there's a real problem, and the problem, the profile falls into the category of mood disorders, anxiety disorders, etc.
Right. Okay. Rachel, anything that? Sorry, I'm saying Rachel, but should I be saying Rachel Ann?
No, Rachel is fine.
Okay. So as Kelly said that, so I was like, wait, am I,
Rachel is fine. Definitely, most of the stuff that Kelly would have mentioned. To note, it's also important to notice when these things would have the onset of these things. So when they would have started. So if these changes would have happened a bit before the whole COVID situation, so Christmas last year and stuff like that, that is something that we would not relate particularly completely and totally in isolation to the COVID. However, with the influx of this happening, the onset, sorry, happening when you were home in quarantine, that is what we would particularly look at, as well as sleep. I think that was the only thing that was on my list that she did not mention is sleep. So some people they stay up later or they sleep for longer periods of time, longer naps throughout the day, waking up throughout the night. These things that are not particularly normal for you on a regular basis.
Even appetite changes,
Oh yeah,
losing your
Yeah,
appetite,
yeah,
eating more than before,
binge
stress
eating.
eating.
yeah,
I definitely started sleep more, John.
Yeah.
yeah.
I have, well, I wouldn't call it a problem. I don't think it's a problem, but I would stay up for long hours, kind of seeing sleep thing. But like now, I find I sleeping it a little scary actually. Like I'm getting sleepy real often. You know what I mean? But it's not plenty. It's just more than I'm accustomed to. So it's feeling weird. Like, by 12 o'clock, I'm feeling the sleep. Like, where's this? But it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Moving on. So right. So, and I guess this is this is a good question, and it kind of ties into, I guess, my experience, because when people ask me how I affected or if I affected, I say it's not much difference to how things normally are for me. I work mostly in isolation. With but sometimes is some people come to shoot and then dice it and then they leave. But most of the times, the all the other aspects is me by myself, and I don't really go out that much. So 2 weeks would pass and I ain't go anywhere sometimes, and I just here like just home alone. And now people, because they're socializing and thing, they'll be like, hey, this thing really affected me and thing. I'd be like, nah, well, I normal and thing, right? Um, should someone be concerned if they enjoy in isolation for long periods of time? Because I enjoy it. Sometimes I just get cabin fever and I just used to, run to Starbucks and just sit down. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'll put on my headphones and I'm not listening to anything. But I just have my headphones on because I don't want nobody come and talk to me. But
But change your environment.
around, yeah, different environment and people around. But it's not like I'm going out to interact with people. So yeah, Rachel, like if somebody is actually enjoying being in isolation, is there something going on there that they need to be wary of?
Well, for some people, I would say yes. And for that reason, it's because it shows that there's a change in your stressors. So I was reading up an article recently, and they were basically saying that, you know, home is supposed to be a safe place. Home
Mm,
is now where you become, you're at one, you're away from the daily stresses, so you enjoy coming home. And then for some people, it actually, you may not notice it in your conscious mind, but
mm,
it may actually become anxiety to actually leave home. So it may
mm,
not be that you are actually really enjoying staying home, but you just
mm.
feel safer at home
Right.
because you are now anxious to go to the grocery. I might walk outside and, oh gosh, what if I touch the mailbox and the mailman,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he didn't want
Paranoia.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the bad boy at the grocery. So all of these different things are definitely becoming stresses for people, and that anxiety has caused people to say, "No, I'm fine. I prefer to stay at home." And then people are also worried about places opening them back up, going back to work,
Right.
traveling on a maxi to go to the office. All of these different things start to become your stresses, like even more stressful than they were before. And home, what we are not noticing is actually now this stress at home is actually becoming our say our hideaway, where we thinking it's a safe place, but really and truly you just maybe, hiding and kind of a comfort for your anxiety then, in a way.
Right. Kelly?
Well, in terms of, if enjoying isolation is something to be worried about, my first response would be no, because people have different personalities. Some
Mhm.
people are introverted, and especially if you're a creative, you love just having that opportunity to just be in your space, be in your head, do your work, and so on. Some people gain energy from being alone, reading a book, etc., and it is where they relax.
Mm.
However, if you find that it's done because you're avoiding certain things a lot, and maybe perhaps you have some sort of anxiety about the world out there and so on, then you
Mhm.
start to look a little more curiously. And then, of course, also, if you find that in isolating yourself and enjoying the isolation, you also have symptoms of depression like irritability,
Mm.
negative thinking, snapping at people, not wanting to socialize at all. Because remember, you don't have to go outside to socialize. You can isolate and socialize. So you can
Yes.
physical distance and not social distance. So if
Mm.
those things are happening, then I would say be careful that you're not slipping into depression. And
Mm.
depression tells your brain, hey, you want to be alone, you want to not wake up, you want to this, that, and the other, and all of these things aren't so healthy for you, and
Mm.
it could be worsen over time. So you want to look at the other things. But if you're at home and you just enjoy the freedom of alone time and you're getting things done. Now,
Mm.
what you, as you were saying, you like being alone, but you would go to Starbucks. So you're still around people, but you're
Mm.
choosing how you socialize, how much you socialize, how much energy you give to other human beings. But
Right.
you're not Quasimodo, right? You're not
Right.
completely
Yeah.
isolated from society and human life. You still will go
Mm.
on Instagram. You're
Mm.
having a meeting right now,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah, you're definitely still interacting with people. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
no, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You said something there, and I kind of want to touch on it, right? And I might be going off into on a tangent here, right? But I think it's something that worth exploring. You said negative thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
What is negative thinking? Because
Negative. Mhm. So
yeah, no.
negative thinking is biased thinking towards the worst thing happening or towards bad things happening. So
Mm-hmm.
you, it's how you think about yourself, it's how you think about other people, and it's how you think about your future, how you think about the world. So
Right.
everything that you try to assess, or everything
Mhm.
that you put your mind to, you think, oh, this is not going to work, or nobody's going to like it because it's me, they're not going to
Mhm.
accept me, or I'm just getting worse, I'm just getting this and that. So
Right.
a lot of negativity or pessimism, and that happens when, again, when you're experiencing depression. Remember, depression could be chemical, and
Mhm.
when and by chemical I mean in the neurotransmitters of the brain. So when that starts to happen,
Mhm.
you might slip into that negative thinking, and it feels like the truth. It doesn't
Hmm.
feel like, oh, this is depression. So we have to really keep checking ourselves and checking our loved ones. So when people start telling you, hey, I
Mhm.
find something changing, I find you a little more negative these days, why are you so pessimistic, why don't you be a little positive, constantly, then
Mhm.
then you start to look and say, well, okay, let me check me, let me take care of me, because you don't want this thing to spiral.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Rachel, is there ever a case where positive thinking is a negative thing?
Grandiose thinking, I would say.
Yeah.
Definitely, over exaggerating the truth a bit in the
Right.
positive light for yourself and the
Hmm.
world around you. Sometimes you may end up living in a reality that does not exist.
Right.
So, that definitely is when positive thinking can become a bit negative.
Okay. Okay.
Because people could use positive thinking to escape things as well. They
Like a
tell
form of
themselves
escapism.
lies,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
just to make
Yeah.
themselves feel better, and they're not facing any realities because they don't feel like they could deal with it you
Right.
know
Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah. Um, so I want to throw this out as well. So, how much can digital and virtual contact, help in these lockdown periods?
Well, from my perspective, I believe that, Trinidadians are so resilient and definitely I think we can get through anything. So
Mhm.
the influx of the online parties, the Instagram zesses, you know,
Yeah.
has definitely, I would say, if not assisted people with their need for social interaction, because the chats between those things are hilarious. I definitely think it has that comedic relief,
Mm.
a way for some people to just relax and not focus on the media where it's just 49 more cases today, 18 more cases today. It's a way that it kind of just allows you to just relax and get back into that. The only thing that's missing is that we're not in person, we're over the computer, but that can only, to me, last for only a short space of time.
Right.
I definitely don't think I could see this going on for a year. And Trinidadans are like, yeah, don't worry, I'll just go to the next Instagram zest and I'll be
Right.
fine,
Yeah. Yeah.
But so definitely in moderation. But I do think that these Instagram events, these Zoom parties, all of these things have helped
Mm.
quite a bit in the situation.
Okay.
Mm.
Kelly, what's your thoughts on that?
One thing that research shows in dealing with any mental stress or mental health issues is that social support is of optimal importance. It's so important. And especially for a collectivist society like ours, we're accustomed to having somebody to talk to drink with, to vent to, or to just hang out, just be in somebody's space and let that distract us. And so I think that we need to try to not lose our social connectedness. Plus, remember, some people have family members abroad and so on. Think about when the coup happened. We
Mm.
didn't have half of the opportunities we have to connect now. I mean, yes, it was nice. Sesame Street was on in the night. I was real happy about that. I was like,
You
come on
mean
at
this
night,
was showing
wow.
the movie on repeat?
Yeah, and playing
Yeah.
And
games and
Maverick.
things like that. Yes. But we are now in a time where we are accustomed to a lot more socialization, especially in different parts of the world. So I think that social media and technology and stuff has really been beneficial and helpful. It helps to keep us connected to the things that keep us alive. So like Rachel was talking about the next zest, but people, oh gosh, Trinidadians love a little party. All know
Mm.
mass camps launching stuff and artists putting
Yeah.
out new
Yeah.
music. So it's
Yeah.
almost in our yearly circadian rhythm to be, doing certain things around now, and we will
Right.
miss it. So some little semblance of it would be we welcome and help us feel alive, help us bring some joy to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Ronaldo.
Well, Crystal made a comment earlier that hit home a little bit
Mm.
with respect to anxiety about jobs. That's something that, for me, is a huge, huge anxiety. I have for a long time been a contract employee, and as the economy slows to what I think will be a grinding halt, at least for a short period, it means people like myself who aren't permanently employed stand to be unemployed, at least for some time. And I mean, it is the only, or is going to be the first time, if I am unemployed. Currently, thankfully, I'm not. But if I am unemployed, it would be the first time in my adult life where I have, when I say adult life, I'm talking about since probably like 15, 16, I have consistently been working. So it would be the first time that I have not been gainfully employed. And I mean, I've put things in place to weather for a period, but that doesn't stop that anxiety from being there, particularly because I do have, a child to have to care for and take care of. I have a mortgage to pay and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's important to put things in place and to prepare and buffer for it, but that does not take away from the anxiety that comes with the perspective or the possibility of not being gainfully employed in the short term. It is something that really does weigh heavily on me.
Yeah. How about you, Quincy?
Well, before I say that, Ariane making a good point there
Yeah.
about letting people know where they could call if they need help and so on. So I guess just keep it in mind. We would make sure and say something about it.
Yeah, I just posted in the thing. So if you all have Kelly or Rachel, if you have numbers that they could provide, we could put it in the private chat, and
Right.
I'll put it up on the screen.
Cool.
Thanks, Ariane.
Well, I wanted to talk about the digital helping. 'Cause I agree with everything that was said, and because I don't mind isolation so much, and I much enjoy the past few little concerts and thing. Like I feeling going big international concerts online at home without the crowd and all that, and well, the freeness does help too. So that going good. But I think it was Jolene in the comments just now said something, and I realized, wait. She said, this Christmas will be a real different Christmas.
Yep.
And that is the one that actually hit me, because that is the one, besides fete and concert and carnival and all them things, Christmas is something that I will participate into that level. I will go out, I will go and welcome back, Kelly. Yeah. I'll go and parang, I'll go and hit a little line by somebody, go and check somebody, that kind of thing. So Christmas is a nice free up time for me. And if we have these kind of restrictions, or not even the restrictions, just like the threat of the virus out there still, you want to be a little more reserved in your going out, as well as in your going by people kind of scene and going in people's space. And people also would be a little bit, take your time-ish, don't just fall in just so kind of scene, that interesting on our bad side for me, because I do feel it could be enjoyable. I think that one might hit me a little bit. And I do think the digital would be able to help there, like a digital parang and go work for me.
I mean, it's definitely not gonna have the same feeling, but upside to it is it might introduce a wider audience to part of our culture. Yeah. I mean,
I think that's
and you know what? It could be a good thing, because I mean, if we had to imagine a tourism, right? A post-COVID tourism, the height of our tourist experience is Carnival, but we have a real vibrant Christmas culture that we do package and sell.
That's true.
We do package, and that is a very unique experience. A Trini Christmas is a very unique experience that I think people would travel for. You understand? So if we could, present it digitally and pay it out there to the world, I think, it could be a good thing. I mean, we want to suffer, as you know, a little bit, but that's the silver lining, I guess. The silver lining.
I have been trying, because I know Marcia Miranda had a concert recently, an e-concert, what do you call it? Yeah, recently. So I think they're trying to get things like that done, but I don't know how many people go to Parang online,
Yeah, I think definitely it is a valid silver lining, definitely, to look at it that way. And especially if you consider, like, maybe it might level up playing field a little bit, so that other aspects of the culture might get a little bit more exposure.
Right.
And certain parts of the culture that end up in the forefront, because they're a little more social, might have to take a little bit of a backseat to certain things. For example, I see it easier to promote Pan, for example, around Carnival time, by virtue of online concerts and that kind of thing. And maybe that might spark the revival of thing like Pan Jazz and them kind of things, Maybe that might start happening. So, that Pan might end up getting a forward in the space.
Yeah.
So yeah, that might be a decent enough silver lining, but then it's still had to come back to what that means socially, you know? Like what I mean,
Yeah.
how Christmas gonna be, how Carnival gonna be,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it'll be rough. We in for some rough times. We in for some rough times, definitely. And you
But
know what?
you use the word and that's what we have to do, reimagine. If we reimagine the things, maybe it might take a little sting off of the blow, you know, if we imagine it properly.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. Thinking about it, Christmas is a time, right? I mean, I think people will say. I think, and I'm not sure. Though, hold me to this, but I think it have stats that say that crime does kind of rise
Before Christmas.
before Christmas, right? Well, in terms of like robberies and thing, that's people that kind of crime now, like people trying to get money, that kind of thing. But it has something about Christmas itself, right? That very functional in our society.
Mm.
That we as collectively as a people, now, you understand? I think Christmas and well, Carnival too, obviously, but Christmas is something I think we don't really focus on how it has impacted society as a whole and what it does do for the collective, if you want to call it consciousness of the people now. Remove that from us and then add that, and then having to factor in the fact that it's hard economic times, COVID-19 and all of that. I
That's
kind of I know like and a year gonna be a scene on it.
Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
for me and I guess my family, I mean, and I think most families, that's really the time of the year when families and the extended families really get together. And somebody was mentioning earlier, I mean, we could do things online, you could do that, but a big part of that community and that family spirit is food, and not having, this auntie cook this and this pilau from this and this pastel from that and the ham from this one and the sorrel layer missing from this one is going to be a scene. It again, we ain't processed it yet. It will hit us eventually. But yeah, every year, I mean, there's always the family reunions coming up for that last week of the year, Christmas into New Year's. I know my family get together every New Year's Day. And it's something that we can't do, would be a real difficult thing. And somebody mentioned earlier in terms of people being trapped overseas. I have some family who still are trapped overseas. They can't come back home. And they don't know if and when they would come back home now. They've been fortunate enough to be able to go by family and that kind of stuff. But we have people who not that fortunate, who are to pay their way. Richard Voisin is one of the people who he's stuck in Panama for a while. And he had to find his way and figure his stuff out. And his daughter's down here. So as feeling for people like that who really and truly really get any short end of the stick and do not have, again, the whole thing is we don't know when and all. We have no idea when it's going to be resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
uncertainty.
Yep. So, Rachel, what would be some tips for keeping mental health in check during this time?
Well, definitely, as I would have mentioned in my introduction, my first go-to is always self-care. So positive self-care habits to develop. We have the time now. Before, people would always say, I don't have the time to take care of myself. Well, if it's one thing we have now, it's time. I definitely think, taking that time to step back, and we don't have the hustle and bustle of life anymore, and it's actually going to, in a way, be a benefit, so that those who would have been very stressed out before in life and those who are having the anxiety at home, meditation or, pick up yoga, online yoga, different things that definitely can increase your relaxation. So some people might like to draw, they don't have the time for it. These things are definitely good habits to form from now, and we can even put in these self-care tips and habits that can extend into after COVID has disappeared, hopefully soon, before Christmas for me, and go.
Wishful thinking.
I'm a Christmas baby.
Kelly?
I would say be mindful of your thoughts. Be careful not to ruminate on the negatives and the what ifs, future telling and so on. Certainly, things will scare you and things will worry you, and you do need to prepare for certain things and you do need to prepare for some what ifs. But psychologists love to tell people to focus on what you can control because you can't control everything. COVID is here. We didn't bring it, but we can't control the fact that it's here, nor can we control when it leaves. We don't know. So definitely, as if things bother you, write them down, do your planning, and then release. Just let it go. And if you find that you're struggling to let things go, then definitely enlist your social support, step 1, and step 2, get professional help if necessary. There is online therapy now. There always was, but there's online therapy now, and there are hotlines and so on. There is help. Don't go through the stress and the anxiety alone, and be reassured that it is normal to feel some anxiety. It is normal to feel a little sad. It is normal to miss things and to wonder and to worry, but don't stay there. Try not to stay there. It's not healthy for you or your loved ones. Right?
And definitely to add to what Kelly is saying, she would have said, stay away from the negative thinking and the fortune telling, etc. But also on an everyday basis, be kind to yourself. It's okay if this morning you got out of bed at lunchtime. It's fine. It's not. Yes, okay. So for some people, that may be a depressive symptom. We may need to work on that. But some days you just need to stay in bed until 2 p.m. You need to stay in bed late, and you can't beat yourself up for these things because you're doing a lot less in the day. You may feel a lot sleepier. You're going to bed later. You're binge watching Netflix till 2 a.m. Be kind to yourself. You may have planned to get up at 7 and be like, I'm going to cook. I'm going to clean. I have the whole day. Be kind to yourself because that is very, very important.
Yeah. Quincy, what are some of the measures you taken, some of the steps you taken to check your mental health?
Well, I know my measures, everybody. Everybody know my measures. I am subscribed to, indulging in certain things. Beverages, for one. But to be honest, like seriously, right now is a real fertile time for me creatively, actually. I doing plenty, like writing, coming up with ideas for different pieces of content. It's a little different from, I remember the last time we was talking, I was saying that the uncertainty was kind of slowing me down. And that was because I was trying to predict, for example, like around this time we was talking about it just now, Carnival bands starting to launch. We in the industry starting to prepare for Christmas. So we rolling out Christmas campaigns and that kind of thing all now. And, that a little bit rough because you don't know what this Christmas going to be like. So like, do you start to talk about specials and deals and come down and get it? You know what I mean? The hard sell kind of not sounding like it's gonna make sense right about now. And if not, then what you're saying, what you're gonna do. So things like that was kind of, beating me a little bit because I'm trying to figure out where to go. But the switch that I made was I stopped trying to do that type of work. Stop even reimagining too much now. I still applying some of that, but I just write into, as therapy, more or less. Just writing down my thoughts, thinking about if, like, say, I start a podcast for my self-help, for my expression, what that podcast could be, things like that. And yeah, it kind of working out. A little bit. Less stressed, I feel.
Yeah. What about you, Ronaldo?
Well, unlike what many people may be experiencing, my workload has quadrupled. I've been forced to be in the office most days, and I mean,
because of IT.
IT cannot take any brunt of it now because everybody trying to rush home to work from home and set up new systems and this and that and the other. So, like, I mean, we had a COVID scare in our office Monday. The office shut abruptly to deal with that and sanitize, and I have not been back. But we've been short-staffed in the office, and even though I don't have a car and I gotta have travel to the office tomorrow morning, speaking to my manager today, he's like, we really need the help and we need hands on deck. So no problem, I'll go in. For me, I've really tried to separate work and home. So previously, you would bring some work home and you try to work on some stuff. I have tried to make it a clean break. So when I leave the office, I leave that mental stress of all this work and the burdens of that there. And when I come home, I don't want to deal with that. It's unfortunate. I mean, I don't want to say go the extra mile at home, because sometimes that is expected that you'll do some extra stuff at home. But really and truly, for my mental health, I do have to kind of disconnect and say, okay, this is my safe space. When I come here, I don't have to focus and deal with that here. I don't want to have to deal with the pressures that work brings at home. So that's one of the things that I've done. I think I've also kind of surrounded myself with a bit more positive people, because we know there are those amongst us who tend to always be upbeat and bubbly. They don't see the negatives. They always look to the positive. And for me, I've tried to surround myself with a bit more of those people, just to kind of take or feed off their energy. And
so what is that for?
Well, that's the next one I'm going to say, which is reasoning through issues with friends, because it's always good. I mean, if you have issues, your friends going through issues, bouncing ideas off and reasoning things through, so that it's not just me dwelling in my head and trying to figure things out on my own, but actually engaging a bit more with friends who may have issues that I may have, gone through, and be able to provide my perspective, and I may be going through things that they may have a different perspective on. So I've always enjoyed gathering information and understanding things from different perspectives, and I think I've just kicked that into overdrive in the last couple of months. So those are the three big things that I've been doing with kind of coping. I'm not gonna lie, Table 34, there's something new. There's something that we've started during this pandemic, and it's a really nice outlet for us to kind of come and discuss things, and it's something to kind of give a routine for every Thursday evening. We'll come here and actually do something that's fun. So this has helped as well.
Yeah. That. If I might interject on something I say, because as a creative one, because you don't get to switch it off, and you don't get to say, well, I'm doing it between 9 and 5. So a lot of times you find yourself doing work at home, or at least just thinking about things home, right? So I accustomed working home and doing things home from even before COVID and all that. And what I just do is create zones in my home now. I mean, not that I'm not living in a sprawling mansion, but at the same time, my bedroom for one, the only device that's going in my bedroom, the only thing that's going in my bedroom, and I make it real stringent now, more than ever before, is my cell phone. That's it. No TV, I don't carry my laptop inside there, nothing. So I go inside there is completely to relax and chill out, and if I had to do work, I had to get up and leave that space and come into the next space, and that will help.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
touch a little bit on what he was talking about. That is another issue that a lot of people may have also encountered working from home, where you no longer are able, as Ronaldo would have been able to do so well, separate work from home, because now work is home. And that is another stressor that a lot of people are dealing with. And as you said, the being able to only have one device in your bedroom with you, all of these things are certain things that we have to look at with regards to kids as well, creating that school space, because now school is online, but home is play.
Yeah.
So while I want to play at home, now the same spot I was playing in is now where I do my 8 hours a day of schoolwork, which is also very stressful, especially at the younger ages. So
they're doing full days? Is full days a school?
Well, some places are doing, as far as I know, kids that I know are dealing with like 3-hour days, but then
Mhm.
parents are worried because you only have 3 hours. So a lot of people are in lessons. So you have school in the morning and lessons in the evening. So you're still doing your 8 hours.
Right, right,
And then
right.
your parents gonna come home from work and be the next teacher to go to more work because you're not going to school, so you have to do this past paper. I found
Right,
my brother here with me doing past papers all week because he's
right.
going into Stand 5. So you definitely these things as well for kids, adults, everybody. That work now becoming home is
Mhm.
very difficult, and not all people can separate and only have one device in the room, etc.
Yeah,
So yeah.
nice. I so we are at the 8 o'clock mark, and I want to just invite both you, Rachel and Kelly, just to give like overall thoughts, and if you have anything that you want to share with the audience in terms of reaching out, getting in contact, and that kind of thing. Kelly, if you could go first.
Sure. So I'll just reiterate. It's normal to feel some anxiety, some fear, some frustration. If you find that is happening for a long period of time, 2, 3, 4 weeks passing, and you're not getting any relief from these symptoms, definitely talk to somebody that you trust, somebody that you care about. If and if you don't get any relief from that, you can speak to a mental health professional. I know that the Association of Psychologists has a free hotline, or if you want to find a psychologist that you pay to see, the TTAP website also has a list of psychologists that practice in Trinidad and Tobago, in the different parts of Trinidad and Tobago. So you can go there as well and get
Sorry, do you
types of.
have the URL? Then you could give it to me.
It's psychologytt.org. Yes,
Okay,
psychologytt.org. Yeah,
okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Um, Rachel, anything?
Yes, so definitely, as I would have said before, be kind to yourself, be nice to yourself. You are now your best friend at home alone. Don't be your worst enemy. As well, definitely, those self care practices, you don't know how powerful they are. Certain things like a simple thing like just getting some fresh air, walking outside, could do wonders for your day. As in, not outside, as in the room, in your backyard, on your porch, on the steps, take a seat, have a cup of tea, a glass of wine, something. Because it's definitely important, to take care of ourselves, be kind, and don't be our worst enemy in this space of time.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I think this was really a great episode.
Agreed.
Really, yeah.
I
Thank
agree.
you so much for coming on, Rachel and Kelly, and sharing your insights with us. And I think, well, not only us, but with the audience as well. I think people appreciated the
Be-
sessions.
Before we run off, 2 birthday greetings. Happy birthday to Ayana. She was in the comments earlier. And belated birthday greetings to David. He celebrated recently as well after the last episode. I mean, he's not here tonight, but I'm sure he'll be here for the after party. So, birthday greetings to both of you all.
Yeah. And
Yes.
I am trying to pull up the URL as we speak, Ronaldo.
All right. So I would like to say thanks again to Rachel and Kelly for joining us. Very informative. Really appreciated. We do have a kind of big announcement to the Table 34 family tonight. We are changing things up a bit in the coming weeks. So we're actually going to move Table 34 over to a new YouTube channel that will be named Table 34. And part of the reason for doing that is because we want to explore more topics like these that go beyond food and food-related things, which is the core of Eater Food and the channel that we currently hosted on. It will also give us a space to have a bit more of an open and frank and honest discussion that we won't necessarily be able to have on this channel because of certain things with not wanting to upset sponsors and keep it a bit more PG-13 and family friendly. We want to be able to provide or use Table 34 as a platform where youth, people who are our age group just below, could come and express themselves, feel comfortable to express themselves and discuss topics. So we really want to foster that kind of environment on the show. And we think the best thing to accomplish that would be to move it off onto a separate channel and kind of separate it from what is Eater Food. Eater Food has been our home for the last couple of months. And we thank Badawi for allowing us to use his platform to kind of springboard and launch the show. I'm hoping he would be able to post the new YouTube channel URL in a short so that y'all could go ahead and subscribe. We need to get 1,000 subscribers ASAP. So come on, help us out, share, subscribe. We're going to be bringing us a whole new season of very informative and very, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sure.
Engaging.
Engaging, right? That's a good word. Engaging topics to discuss. We are going to take a break. We are going to go on hiatus for the month of September. So you all are not going to see a Table 34, a new Table 34 for September. We are going to be back out October 1st. And we are going to continue for our season 2 straight up to December 28th. So we're going to give you 3 months. We're just taking 1 month to kind of prepare, draft things, get ready, and coming out with a bang on the new channel come October 1. And we'll have a whole lot of these interesting discussions, and again, things that go beyond food. We will still discuss food. We'll include that. We're not going to lose the foodies, but we will use it to discuss a suit more topics related to us, youths, our generation, and give us a
Who's a youth here?
I know what I'd say. Speak for yourself.
Youth. We and the people who just I mean, youth. They count up to 35 youth. So we given all their extra decade to be youth. All right. So look out for that new channel. Please join, subscribe. All the old episodes will be posted there as well. And we're coming out with a lot of new content related to Table 34. With our website to launch soon. We're going to make this new and very interactive, right? So look out for it. Come October 1, we relaunch it with a bang.
Yep, we will be. Thank you. So again, Kelly and Rachel, thank you. For the people asking for the URL, I'm looking for it right now. So stay tuned. Please come back for the after party, and I will post the link to the URL so you can go and subscribe. Again, Kelly and Rachel, thank you so much for joining, and we really appreciate it. And for people who might want to get in contact with you all, please just give your number again.
Sure. Oh, in the chat? Okay.
No, you can just say it so they hear it.
Yeah, okay. So 763-3937 is my number.
Right, nice. And Rachel.
My number is 471-7875.
Okay, thank you very much. So everybody, I'm not saying anybody, everybody who's on, please join us for the after party. We'll be right back. And again, thank you for joining us for this episode, and thank you for joining us for the previous episodes. I know this has become your Thursday evening entertainment, and we're glad that you all have made us part of your routine, your Thursday evening routine. So stay tuned. We shall be back for the last raps, at least for a while. Thanks again, Rachel.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
All right.